Hey everybody, welcome to another Warships replay. This one's in the Gurumiyashi. I've ended up on Big Race, which is one of the low tier only maps. I think this map only goes up to, I'm going to say tier 5 or tier 6. Above that you won't see it. It's a very small map. A lot of battleships can actually range all the way into the enemy spawn right from the start. And it of course has every destroyer captain's favourite area, the Thunderdome, down in the southwest corner. Which incidentally is where I'm headed. Now the enemy do have a Minikaze, which is just a little bit faster than me, and has faster torps. They also have a Wix, which is essentially just a Clemson but a tier lower. It has slightly less guns, but it has the same general layout, including the torpedo tubes on both sides of the ship. And so I've got to be really careful getting into a close range engagement because the Minikaze's torps are too fast to dodge and the Clemson has torps everywhere and will just shit them out from both sides. My own torps are quite long ranged for this tier, they're quite good, but they're not as fast, and I only get to launch 2 sets of them, 2 spreads of 3 per tube, per set of tubes. Right away, the Minikaze's gone to the central cap, so I don't have to worry about him. I do have to worry about the Wix though. There he is. Looks like he's speed boosting. You can tell when an enemy destroyer is using his speed boost because the smoke from his funnels is much thicker and darker than it usually is. Get some HE shells into him, does quite a bit of damage, and I turn just in time to dodge that lot of torpedoes. Unfortunately, I'm not paying enough attention, and it looks like the enemy torpedo bombers actually launched those. So we've encountered one of the rare carrier players who's actually stupid enough to waste torp bombers on a destroyer when there's battleships spotted.
Sunk an enemy destroyer.
Despite taking a torpedo right to the face, I'm able to sink the Wix. I've now got to worry about the St. Louis and the Miyogi, which are getting right up in my face. They're very close. I didn't really have time to react there, so unfortunately I didn't narrow my torpedo spreads, and it's unlikely those are going to hit anything. Surely any thinking human being would see those torps coming and be able to get out of the way. At least that's what you would think. My smoke runs out. I usually tend to use smoke only as a desperate sort of last measure to survive in destroyers. I don't really use it for any tactical purpose whatsoever. Especially in the Gurumiyashi, where you spend so much time actually firing your guns, you just expect to be spotted all the time anyway. Now, remember what I said about thinking beings being able to dodge those torpedoes? Well, apparently the enemy Miyogi is not a thinking being, because he just drove straight into one. The St. Louis, of course, is not quite so stupid. And I now circle back around the island, looking to get my next spread of torps out at maybe the St. Louis, or perhaps the Miyogi, who is in fact reversing. So that rules him out as a target. I'd have to lead behind the island. Of course, my torps will not go through the island. I'm able to wipe out the Minikaze there with my guns, and I launch one wide spread, one narrow spread at the St. Louis. Though he is on fire and making best speed for cover, he's still a major threat to me. The St. Louis doesn't have the speed to catch up to destroyers when they run, it doesn't have the agility to dodge torpedoes at close range, but it has guns everywhere. It is bristling with guns pointing in every fucking conceivable direction. And so it's a massive threat to destroyers because it could just ripple out fire in pretty much any direction they go. And it just creates a wall of shells. I am able to get away with my hit points though, and as you can see, I am using my speed boost now, and you can see the much more obvious smoke from the funnel. Speed boost takes the Gurumiyashi from just over 38 knots to a top speed of about 42.5 knots, which is fucking good for a destroyer. I pop out next to the Miyogi, which was part of my plan. You can see his secondaries opening up there. What was not part of my plan was waiting so long to take this turn. I lead my torpedoes into the turn the Miyogi is making. so he should drive straight into those, even if he reverses his rudder at the moment. But here, I wait too long to turn to my left, and my forwards momentum carries me sideways in a drift against the shore. I'm now stuck. Thankfully, I did get 2 hits there, and the Myogi is both flooding and burning and on reload, so I might just get away with this. And indeed I do, somehow. Really, I should not have survived that. That was some hideously bad driving from me. But at this tier, you can get away with some pretty serious mistakes. I mean, as you saw, the Myogi was reversing earlier. There's no misplay I could make in its destroyer that's quite as bad as a battleship reversing across an open strait. I've now got some support. There's a St. Louis to my left. Looking for shots, the Murmansk is out of range. The 3 remaining enemy battleships are all up north, 2 to the east, 1 slightly to the west. And there's of course the carrier and a cruiser down in the south. Now, a lot of destroyers would go for the carrier, and normally I'd be tempted to, but I figured I would go and deal with the battleships instead. It looks like our carriers more or less got theirs handled, and quite aside from that, there's a St. Louis chasing it as well. There's another Myogi up here. As you can see, compared to my earlier videos, the Myogi now actually does get a decent hull upgrade. It gets a pagoda mast modification, which gives it good firing range and makes it look like a real battleship. Well, a World War II battleship anyway. Myogi is not as bad as it used to be as a result, but it's still not fantastic. The only real plus side to it is that at least it's not the Kawachi, which is so hideously short-ranged and inaccurate, you're lucky to kill something that's right next to you with your main battery. Now, these torps aren't aimed at that Myogi that I was looking at, they were aimed at the guy on the right. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't paying attention to my left, and in fact launched torps right as my team South Carolina was crossing that gap. I was terrified that I was going to hit him. Thankfully I didn't. He was moving a little bit too fast, and began a turn as well. Once again, leading into the turn, I expect this Myogi to cross paths with those torps any moment. And then I'm able to set him on fire using my guns. Now this is one of the Grimyashi's real strong points, is being able to just pound things with its guns. As well as being higher damage than most destroyer guns because of the larger caliber. The larger caliber also makes them slightly more likely to crit things. I wasn't expecting hits there. The Myogi reversed his turn, but I did in fact pick one up, and this guy's now burning from almost stem to stern. He's flooding, and he is dead. Cleaned up by a New York. That's about all I'm going to be able to get done this match. The remaining enemy ships are well out of my firing range, and I won't get to them in time. All up, not a bad result.